All right, hello everyone to our first Deca stream. Really happy to have you here. I'm Counselor Suna, your community manager, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the transition and, of course, the future plans for Star Trek Online. Just a heads up, guys, we're taking questions at the end of this, so please have some patience. You can already ask them, and we will lock them for later. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself. Some of you might have already met me in the Discord or seen me around on social media. I'm the community manager for Star Trek Online. I've been working on MMO games with a great legacy like Star Trek Online for 5 years now. And I love working with communities like this one, full of passionate long-time players that just want to keep enjoying the game that they invested so much time in already. I actually have a degree in science fiction and mostly science fiction literature, and I grew up on Star Trek like many of you. And that's it from me. I'm gonna introduce you to my co-host today. So there's Cam, our production manager, and he's gonna tell you a little bit about what he's doing for Star Trek Online.
Hi everyone, Cam here. I am so thrilled to finally have the opportunity to speak with you guys. I know this is something that myself and Rich, as part of this transition, have been dreaming about for over a year now. So it seems like a bit of a dream come true that we're finally here. So I'm Cam. I'm a product manager working on Stowe. Essentially, that just means I'm kind of accountable for the success of the game, oversee the roadmap, and I'm just kind of a general tiebreaker when it comes to decisions. My role is to largely support the leads, make sure they're unblocked, and that the work that we're doing is in keeping with the studio's vision. I've been in the games industry for over 10 years now. I've pretty much only worked on live service MMORPGs. I started on a little game called RuneScape at Jagex. I was a product manager there for about 5 years, and and I'm now very pleased to be here on Stowe with you guys. And I'll hand over to Rich.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, as Cam said, really very exciting to finally be able to talk to you. It's been a long time coming, and it's as Cam said, very exciting time. So my name is Richard Hayden. I'm creative director on Star Trek Online. I also am creative director on another game, but I can't talk about that yet. But maybe at some point in the not too distant future. Prior to that, I looked after another MMO called Realm of the God here at Realm of the Mad God, sorry, here at Deca. Prior to that, I was creative director for a blockchain startup with a heavy leaning into the narrative side of things. Before that, I was at Splash Damage, where I worked on Transformers Reactivate and a couple of other unreleased titles. Before that, at some point, I actually founded and ran my own mobile game studio where we made games that respond to music. So whatever music you were playing would procedurally generate and modify the levels, and decide what enemies would attack you and when they'd attack you, and do crazy stuff like that, which was a lot of fun. And then before that, look at the grey in my beard. It's a long way back in time, and so I'll start right at the beginning. At the tender age of 19, and this is showing my age, I actually started my own play-by-mail RPG, which actually won an award, so that was nice. But yeah, really pleased to be here. I'm gonna hand over to Jeremy.
Oh, hi. Most of y'all know me. I've been around for a while, old school Cryptic. I don't know if everybody is aware here, but I'm now the lead designer for STO, having graduated from just being a systems designer. So I now, in my new leadership position, oversee both the content design and systems design teams, and am responsible for a lot of the coordination between those teams and our art leads and production. So yes, some of you might know me, aka as Bordicus, from previous streams or on the Discord. I've been around for a long time. I'm basically just here to show that the transition is a friendly one. But most of the stream I'm
Thank
going to leave to
goodness.
Cam and Rich for commenting most and letting you guys get to know them. You've seen me for years now. I'm not going to steal the spotlight. So I guess
So
back
what?
to you, Sona.
Yeah.
Back to me. All right, before we go into the more official business, I think I have a very important question, and that is, what is all your favorite Star Trek series? I'm gonna start with my own. It's very obviously the Next Generation, because I think Data is one of the best characters ever, and I love following him through the series. And it's also the series that I grew up on. And as great as Discovery and all the others are, there's just a charm to the Next Generation that I don't think we can ever have again. Maybe it's my nostalgia. So, what about you, Cam?
Sort of stole a bit of my answer there, but it's fine. I'll come up with something new. So I started watching Enterprise first. So I have like a good affinity to that. But in kind of preparation for this role, I went back and watched a lot of the original series, and just sort of it just kind of fell in love with the series all over again. I think it's when you see all the like the sci-fi, like the creation of all the sci-fi tropes and in that you now see in sci-fi today, on across this franchise and other, just very cool to kind of see, and also just see what kind of makes Star Trek and so yeah, it's kind of a mixture between Enterprise and original series, if I'm honest. Rich?
Yeah, well, it's difficult to narrow down to just one series, isn't it? I grew up with not with the original series. I'm not that old. I grew up with reruns for the original series, which obviously I enjoyed thoroughly. But it wasn't until sometime in the 80s, I think, when my brother managed to get hold of all the videos for TNG, and we just one summer holiday just bin watched the entire thing, and I absolutely fell in love with TNG. So I'd have to just say, like, similar to Jix, I was gonna say, Suna, TNG is probably my favorite. There are two particular episodes that I absolutely love. One is The Inner Light, one where Picard is sort of transported and lives an entire another life and ends up learning, being able to play that flute, and that kind of continues through, forwards. That's just remarkable. And then probably my other all-time favorite episode would be Darmok, because I just love the language there and how they spoke, and how the breakdown of the universal the universal translator doesn't work effectively when it's all allegory like that and metaphor. So yeah, again, and when I was thinking about this question, I realized that I chose two of the most kind of, I guess, emotional kind of episodes that really tug on the heartstrings more than the big climactic space battle one. So I don't know what that says about me. But yeah, TNG superb. But also, I have to say, I love DS9 and Voyager as well. And more recently, I really enjoyed Discovery. I really enjoyed Picard. And I'm just about to start Stranger Things, which I haven't actually started yet, regretfully. But
That's not a
yeah,
Star Trek show, Rich.
that's not Stranger Things. What am I saying?
Stranger Things? Did you mean Strange
Strange
New
New
Worlds?
Strange New
Strange New
World.
World. Well, that went well. Yeah. I was wondering why there wasn't so many communicators in Stranger Things. There was D&D though, so there's that. All right, Jeremy, you can answer now.
Okay. Well, I also grew up with TNG, and there's a lot of fond family memories associated with sitting down and watching that together as those episodes came out. But I got to be honest, Lower Decks is starting to replace it. Lower Decks is I love to rewatch the episodes. I love the balance between the humor and a little bit of irreverence, but at the same time, you can tell the showrunners of that are such fans of Star Trek that it feels just like watching the shows that they create for Lower Decks and the scripts that they write for Lower Decks feels like sitting around with fellow geeks and just geeking out on Star Trek together. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
definitely.
pretty quickly started to win me over. Strange New Worlds is also awesome as well in terms of like recent shows. The
What
musical
about Stranger
episode,
Things?
no, Stranger Things is not among my top Star Trek shows. It's pretty good though. Uh, I was just going to say that the musical episode of Strange New Worlds deserves every award that you can imagine. It was unfathomable. Yeah, incredible. So that's my answers.
All right. Before we talk even more about Stranger Things, let's get back to business and talk about not so strange things. I think a lot of players asked over the last months why we've been silent for so long when we first took over. And while it's a little bit late since we did so, I think it would still be nice for Cam to say a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the truth is we've been dying to get out there and talk to you guys for I mean, since the very beginning of this transition. It's a pretty boring answer. It just comes down to essentially legal reasons when you're dealing with multiple third parties. There's a lot of crossing the T's, dotting the I's that needs to happen before us as kind of new stewards can actually come in and talk to players. So it was really just a case of us having to wait until we'd been given the all clear. Now we're past that point, so we were able to kind of freely chat with you guys, live streams, and obviously talk about content as Deca and as stewards of the game. And so sorry for the delay. We were just as upset and just annoyed by the time it took as you guys are. I promise. Yeah, I think that probably covers it.
All right. Hope that answered some of the questions. So while we're at it, let's talk a little bit about who we are at Deca and what our plans are for Star Trek in the near future.
Yeah, I could start with this one. So so for those who are unfamiliar, Deca's kind of whole model is that they take games that are at a certain part of their lifetime, usually games that are on quite a mature part of their life cycle, and essentially tries to breathe new life into them. So the kind of premise is that we try to invest more and try to increase the output where possible. That's essentially what the aims very much are for Stowe. And so we our plan at the moment is even though we're kind of at this latter part of the transition, there are still kind of areas where we're starting to scale up. There's certain areas where we've probably gotten ahead of it in terms of we're skilled up and we're feeling very confident, but there still are some parts that just because of working with proprietary engines and having all of that not having that tribal knowledge where where it's kind of slowed us down a little bit. But the aim is pretty much to try and replicate the cadence of content that you've received for the last few years. We still want to deliver regular episodes, and we want to do regular new TFOs and patrols. We want to give you all the same events, all the same seasonal events, all of that sort of stuff. So we very much want to aim to basically produce the same amount of content that you were receiving beforehand. And then obviously once we've got that and we're comfortable with that and we feel like we've kind of stabilized, when we may look to invest more and see if there's any additive and additional features that we can bring in as part of the pipeline in the more distant future. Yeah, Rich, did you have any commentary on that?
Not really. I think you covered it off. Yeah.
Super.
I think I'll add just a little bit to that. Over the course of the last year or so, when we've been transitioning, we've had to take a lot of time internally just to pursue training and engine expertise. As an unfortunate side effect of Deca taking over management, we did lose some experts on the cryptic side of things. So that has hindered the transition being quite as smooth as everyone wanted it to be. As well as just an aging and arcane weird engine to deal with. Doesn't conform to a lot of like modern norms in terms of game development software. So training has taken longer. That's why anyone that has been paying close attention has noticed some of our recent updates have been a little smaller than you might have seen under Deca or under Cryptic's management, but we're getting there. And we definitely have, just as Cam said, the long-term focus is to get up to speed with where Cryptic was at, or maybe even exceed them in the long run in terms of the size of our updates or the cadence of our updates. We're still learning and getting better day by day.
Right, that's actually a great transition because the next we want to talk about is a little bit about the collaboration between Deca and Cryptic.
Yeah, I could start. So it's a transition of this type is a pretty weird one. But the amazing thing we've seen kind of across the board with both Deca and Cryptic is the extreme high levels of professionalism and dedication. Huge amount of grace and effort from the Cryptic guys as part of the knowledge transfer efforts. Like I'd love to just go through all of our sort of Cryptic comrades, name by name, and just thank them for really unbelievable effort in trying to help us pick up as much as we can in such a short, what is a relatively short space of time. Not only that, because it's difficult, but also the time zone gap. We have people. The Deca is a global company. We have people from all different time zones, and Cryptic is predominantly West Coast America. So we actually were dealing with 9, 10, 11-hour different time zones, where Jeremy over here starts extremely early. We have other people who have to stay on until extremely late in order to basically keep everything going and make it all happen. So it's been challenging, as you can imagine, with any kind of knowledge transfer. It takes time. It's arduous. There's lots of going over the same things multiple times and trying to figure out how you get different systems to work. There was the kind of the Cryptic system of their development, and then we effectively had to create one from scratch, because most of the employees as part of the who joined Stowe joined fresh and came from lots of different studios and different backgrounds. So there's been a lot of kind of trading of ideas to try and optimize our processes to get to where we are now. So it's been quite messy, but thanks to the incredible dedication of both the Cryptic and the Deca team, and basically everyone else involved, putting in crazy hours and working super hard and being inquisitive and curious, we've been able to get to the point that we are now, where we're finding our delivery a bit more stable, or more stable than it ever has been. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I can add to that. I just wanted to say that my predecessor Al Rivera, colossal shoes to fill. Also, Paul Reed, the writer on the team, great guy. Tremendously difficult job to kind of live up to that legacy. If it wasn't for people like Jeremy, who Borticus obviously, and Thomas Maroney as well, and Weston. I mean, Cam joked that he could list off a bunch of Cryptic people, and I realized what I've just started to do there was list off a bunch of Cryptic people, but I just really want to convey again the professionalism, the support. We couldn't even get close to where we currently are, and to Jeremy's point, we're still kind of gaining ground. We're still learning. We're still getting up to the cadence that Cryptic previously had, but we wouldn't be close there if it wasn't for the professionalism and ultimately the support of people like Jeremy and Thomas et al. So thanks, guys. Complimented to you right to your face, Jeremy.
Thanks. I'm terrible at taking compliments.
I know, that's why I did it.
I can comment a little bit on this as well from the sort of Cryptic perspective of this. I'm not going to mince words. This whole transition came as a result of some pretty rough times in the industry, and the resulting, some could say, fallout on the side of Cryptic has been tough to deal with. But I will say that, every single person that I've worked with at Deca, everybody that I've communicated with or collaborated with on any feature or personnel things or hiring processes or HR and anything, I've been nothing but impressed. Rich just said that the professionalism from Cryptic has been really appreciated. I would say the exact same. Even though the situation that we find ourselves in is probably to no one's ideal, I've had nothing but good experiences with the actual day-to-day function of working with Deca. I'm really impressed with their professionalism in every capacity, and especially those among the team who have been so enthusiastic about jumping into this crazy engine and all of our proprietary technology that goes into it to try and figure it out and come up to speed as quickly as possible. There's been a really impressive level of thirst for knowledge on that front that I've been really pleasantly surprised by during the course of this whole transition. And I do think that even though we've gone through some rough times, I'm here for the long haul, because I trust Deca at this point to see us through. Fingers crossed. Best of intentions, definitely. Yeah. Anyway, that's about all I can say.
Back over to you, Suna. Councillor Suna, do you read me?
Hailing frequencies are open.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Something wrong with my connection, I guess. All right. I think most of you here in the chat have already played the new minisode Heart of the Matter, and if not, why not? You have to answer to me. But I think some of you were wondering why we decided to publish a mini episode instead of a full episode. And while Cam and Rich cannot run away from me, I thought I would make them answer that question.
Holding us to account. I like it. Yeah, it's so we've kind of touched on this a little bit already. We basically we're still ramping up our capacity as a team, and an episode is it's easy to say is the most complicated piece of content that is produced, and so we wanted to make sure that we had enough time to deliver properly and make sure that we deliver to the the correct standard and quality. So we didn't want to rush it. So we opted for something a bit more experimental, which we've dubbed a mini episode in the interim, which was something that we knew we could deliver. So we were making sure that we were getting new content out around that time that players would be expecting a new episode. And the plan is to make sure that for the next major release that we are ready to deliver. Rich, did you have any commentary?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to start by saying something a little contentious, and it's Jeremy's fault. And now let me just frame that correctly. So what I mean by that is what you see, especially the All That Matter mini episode det, as we were calling it internally. That actually started life as a patrol that myself and one of the I think Jeremy's second in command with the design team, Phil Harris. It was an idea that Phil and I had, and basically I was kind of just fixated on this concept of having a Borg cube that is kind of enveloped in some kind of nasty the dark side of terraforming, like a where this idea that this weaponized protomatter device sort of came from. And obviously through the course of developing the concept, we stitched it into various things that were going on within the storyline at that time, but then it got put on hold, and we thought that neither that nor what turned into the Devil's Heart TFO was ever going to see the light of day, which is a real great shame, because both of them, back then we thought had some really interesting elements to it, really interesting mechanics, interesting concepts, but they were, frozen until further notice. But it wasn't until I think Jeremy, when he very wisely, shall we say, assumed the role of lead designer, so we could continue the sort of the mind meld with him. He actually said that he really liked that idea of a patrol, but that if anything we could make more of it. I think reading between the lines, he was saying I was a bit wordy with my approach of how much story I wanted to put into this, what was a patrol. So he basically took it out of the freezer, thought it out, revitalized it a little bit. Obviously from a story point of view, things have moved on a little bit, so we couldn't exactly do what we initially wanted to do, but yeah, so that's why a patrol turned into an episodette. But as Cam said, the reason why it wasn't even bigger is literally down to the capacity of our team at the time, and we are, like I said, we are gaining momentum, but probably not quite at full cryptic cadence yet.
Well, I'll offer a little further, like, peek behind the curtain in terms of our pipeline and everything on the content side of things. As our content design team comes up to speed, obviously right now it's taking us longer to achieve things than we hope to get to. We hope to speed up over time. One of the other reasons that we decided to sort of unvault these experimental pieces of content, like Rich was just saying, and release them with our season 33.5. That's our internal name for it. Was Heart of the Matter update. Was also so that part of the team could get started on our next update, which we're not ready to say when it comes out, but pre-production on that started back as soon as we released the anniversary episode. We had at least part of our team that was able to get the ball rolling on those, so that we would make sure we had enough runway to, bring our content A game, as it were. So being able to brush the cobwebs off of All That Matter and Devil's Heart was a perfect, like, sort of win-win situation for all of that. Yeah.
All right.
To some of the questions in chat about, like, will we do more mini episodes, or those of you that are saying, hey, yeah, we like mini episodes. I think this is something that has earned a place in our repertoire, but we don't currently have any on the books in terms of when we'll do it again. But I think it's safe to say that when the opportunity arises, we'll definitely embrace the idea of doing something like this again.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. All right. I think what a lot of people really want to know is what will come in the future when it comes to the story. Can you tell us anything about the content plans beyond the current story arc?
I think this is up to Rich to see how much he wants to
Yeah,
spoil.
sorry, could you it's always the tough one. Could you repeat that question, please, Suna?
What can you tell us about the content plans beyond the current story arc?
Oh, okay, that's a great question. Yeah, how much do I want to reveal? This current story arc is, I would have to describe it as epic on a grand scale. There is so much going on, so many different factions, so many different multiverses. It's really, really big, and it's going to have an extremely climactic conclusion. And so one of the things that Flo, who I work very closely with, our writer, one of the things that Flo and I discussed very early on was appreciating the sort of sheer scale and magnitude of what the current story arc. What did we want to do beyond that story arc? And so we both agreed that a change of pace was probably is going to benefit things, and so for that reason we wanted to tell arguably more personal stories, get a little bit more involved in specific characters, and possibly, without spoiling things, content that you've seen in the more recent TV shows, just exploring some of the unanswered questions around those elements. I can't get much more vague than that, can I? So we have come up with 3 additional stories. There's lots more. I mean, I'm sure Flo's notebook is much like mine, with scribblings of lots of different ideas. But the 3 that we've currently run past Paramount that are after this current story arc, Paramount really liked them. Our creative consultant over at Paramount, had some great feedback for us on them, and so we're really excited to start that other the next story arc and tell those more personal stories. I really don't want to go into too much detail of what they're going to consist of. I guess you'll have to wait and see, but ultimately, we do have the current story arc to finish, and if anyone watching read the Q&A that Flo and I did around our approach to current storytelling and what we're going to do in the future, one of the things that's really important to us is to do as much justice to this arc as we possibly can, this current arc, to the point where we even injected another episode into it, because there was so much going on. I personally didn't feel that there was enough space to tell all of those things meaningfully, and so I decided to inject another story, another episode into it. So we've actually extended the current story arc by 1 episode, but really exciting. What's happening there is going to be, like I said, epic. Hopefully we can do that epicness justice. I think we can. We've got a great team. but yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm really sorry I can't be more specific about certain things, but I don't want to spoil what happens in this arc, and I don't want to blow too much cover on the stuff that's coming next. But yeah, basically a big shift in pace. Imagine it that way. More personal stories.
I want to clarify something in case people haven't been in the know just about the current storyline. Like, in case people aren't aware, like the whole storyline from the beginning of Kings and Queens through the proposals that have been written up for how this whole epic arc resolves itself eventually. This is all stuff that was originally written up by Al Rivera and Paul Reed, as Rich mentioned their names earlier. And I think that it's a good mark on Deca and their respect for this transition and taking over stewardship of the game, that they've made the decision, Rich primarily, to see those plans through and to treat it with as much respect and everything as they can, to make sure that this storyline and the original plans laid down by the previous designers and writers gets to see the light of day. We're changing actually very little. Like, we've injected a little bit of new story and a little bit more, as Rich said, like breathing room for the parts of the story to kind of take shape and feel like they have time to breathe. But we're not really changing primary story beats as much as possible. Now, there are still multiple episodes yet to come, and conversations happen all the time. We may have to shift things towards the end, but we'll see. Like, I've been in some of the conversations between Rich and Flo already with trying to figure out how we get to where we're trying to get to, and it's always been a breath of fresh air that nobody's trying to like put their stamp on things and make sure everything's changed so that this is the Deca way. No, that's just not happening. We're making sure to.
It's actually quite the opposite, isn't it? From those
Yeah.
conversations that Flo and myself and you, Jeremy, and Thomas, when we have those conversations, it's really about Flo and I trying to get to the crux of what Al and Paul Reed had in their minds, and trying to be as true to that as possible. Yeah, so.
I don't think we want to give away too many details about it, but I will say somebody asked in the chat, and just to answer it real quick, the original plan was that the 16th anniversary was going to probably wrap up the storyline, but because of some of the additional beats that Rich and I have agreed on adding and giving the story more room, I don't think that's going to be the case at all. We'll probably be doing, that won't quite wrap things up. I think we won't be able to do that by the anniversary update. But we're barreling down towards those epic conclusions at a pace that we're all happy with in terms of storytelling. And I will also mention, to Rich's other point, like future content plans after we conclude this epic storyline. There's a lot of interest from the individual designers and from myself to maybe not just more personal stories, but just something where the captains could feel like they're not having to solve yet another universal client problem right out of the gates. Bouncing from crisis to crisis to crisis is a little bit tiring, even though it makes for good action in a video game. It can lead to some narrative fatigue. So yeah, we'll be taking a little bit of opportunity to maybe even let you do some exploring, gasp, in Star Trek.
Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
Stranger Things.
Not Star. Everyone knows that's not Star Trek. Gosh.
No, I am excited for the exploring. I mean, I get lost so often flying on the maps that I explore anyway, but some people might be a little better at navigation than I am. All right. We're almost at the end of what we've prepared for you, but I wanted to give Cam the chance to talk for a moment about what you might be able to expect from this live streaming in the future.
Yeah, so we recognize it's not something we've been super consistent with to start off with. Obviously, part of that is the the issues we had actually being able to speak to you guys. Obviously, we're now past that. So the plan is definitely to try to ramp up the cadence a little bit more. I don't think we'll be doing quite as much as once a week, but we want to try and do more than we're doing at the moment. And one compromise to that, and something we've really been enjoying, is seeing a lot of the streamers kind of take over the emceeing, like the organic streamers who kind of lead these live streams for us. And obviously we've had Mike, who's done quite a few. He did a stream for us recently, looking at the Timeless Legacy bundle with Thomas and Jeremy and Pundus. And yeah, Pundus, is that right? Yeah. And that's always exciting, and we're quite happy to hand the hand the microphone and over to the players and over to the streamers to kind of lead some. So I think what we'll try and do is we'll try and increase our own cadence, but we'll try and look for more opportunities to use streamers to basically run some streams for us, because as long as it's kind of mutually beneficial for everyone. So yeah, hopefully that answers that.
All right. So you will hear a little more about me. We will have different guests on for sure, but I will be here definitely for the next ship release. So we can't really say what will come in between yet, but the moment we release a new ship, there will be a stream either by me or we'll do another collaboration. So we do want to keep the ship streams going. I think it's a great source for all of you for some insight, and it's a great chance for Jeremy and Thomas and Pundus to brag a bit about the great work they do, and as they should, honestly.
Build hype, get people hyped.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's you. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always super hyped, but it's nice to be able to talk about it with the real nerds. All right. We have some questions collected, but we do need to maybe give Cam and the others a moment to look at the collections. So I'll answer.
I can actually. Oh, go on, sorry. Go ahead.
The first
Normally, I'm
one
not
that
here.
was very important, which is it midnight in Germany right now? It's not. Obviously, as you guys might have noticed, we're not doing the stream times that we originally did because I am in Germany right now, and the 1 a.m. stream times are a little difficult for me. It is 8:40 p.m. right now, so not quite midnight, but we
But I
try
think
to.
like
put
we're
it
still
late
working
enough.
out the details, right? But I think we've kind of targeted. Currently, our plan is to go live at about the same time when we go live, because it seems
Yes.
kind of good time to bridge the gap between our various time zones and get different developers from different parts of the world involved in these potentially.
Yes, I think this is a good middle because it is after the core work times in Europe, but that means that Jeremy will have an easier time to come on the stream as well as other
Yeah, I get to clock out half
members.
the day, right?
Yeah, so for you it's great. We all have to stay late. You get to finish early. And then people like Pandus who are on later times, they don't have to stay up until 5 a.m., just until 3 a.m. So it's a little bit easier for them. But Rich,
chose to
you
live
said
there.
you already wanted to answer something.
Yeah, so I've just been looking at the questions that have been forwarded my way, at least. There was one, hang on. Yeah, with from the amusingly and named Captain Potcard. He asks, you guys open to story suggestions or idea submissions? Now, there's potentially some sort of legal reasons why we can't just simply take an idea that someone else has had and run with it. But what I will say is that we are always very willing to listen to feedback, to listen to suggestions. A lot of our the way this process works typically is, based upon some ideas we have internally. We'll talk to Paramount about what the sort of story we want to tell, but a lot of that does come in from sort of ideas that we get seeded from the community. Things, that it's ideas can come from anyone anywhere, right? And sometimes they crystallize into this nice little nuanced piece of potential storytelling that we get excited about. So whilst I can't promise that we even have the time, to be honest with you, to read through everyone's submissions and things like that, I'll be more than happy to listen to any feedback or listen to any ideas that generated by the community, and just to see if there's something we can work with where maybe it will dovetail nicely with something else that we've already got sort of planned. So that's a possibility. And then the other one was from again, great names, OG Boomer. Sounds like me a little bit.
Is it your alternative account?
He's probably younger than me. Is there a plan in the future to make learning curve for new players more intuitive by implementing maybe more training sessions or similar? This is actually a really interesting question, and one of the things that, if you step away from Star Trek Online briefly and just think about very long-running games, this is historically one of the big problems about any long-running game that's been running for several years, that's got a well-established community and people love it, is that these great games necessarily to a degree grow kind of organically, and that quite often means that the onboarding of new potential new players becomes more and more complex, more and more difficult. And things like tutorials and training missions, training exercises, things like that can fall by the wayside, and you end up with this kind of very inscrutable, almost black box of impenetrable gameplay. I've literally worked on titles like this before, where this has been been an actual problem. So, whilst I can't say that we'll definitely do this, it's actually a kind of something that's heartfelt to me, is to be able to make games more accessible to new users, because one of the great things about Star Trek Online is it really celebrates the Star Trek universe, right? And not every Star Trek fan will necessarily know about it, but in improving that accessibility is only a good thing. So it's definitely a conversation, or definitely conversations that I'm sure we've already had internally, but we will continue to have.
Well, I can also say that that's one of the benefits of this whole transition of all the new Deca personnel that are working on the game now. They all bring their own feedback about the pain points that they've had with learning the property, and it's not just the tools in the engine; it's the game itself. Many, almost all of the people that Deca has hired for this project had never touched Star Trek Online before. There's a few standouts that had, or that were at least familiar with the game to some extent. But most people are having to learn it from scratch as they now step into the position of working on the game as well. And so there's been a lot of feedback that's been filtered my way of the challenges of learning to play the game, and learning to understand it, and learning to really completely grok it to the extent that especially designers need to understand the game's whole past. There's a lot of what I've adopted the term archaeology that goes into the training process of bringing all these people on board, of just digging up the past of this game, and some of that is not obvious to players. So anyway, that is all to say in broad strokes that I understand, and it's been brought into more tighter focus that there's a lot of game in this game, and that can be a challenge for players to adopt and to adapt to. So while I can't say that we have any plans written in ink or carved in stone to improve any of that, it is a subject that has become a little more in front of my face as we have more personnel trying to learn the game right now. Especially, actually, I just had a chat with Phil Dunn, our new art lead, this morning, about how challenging it is to really understand the full breadth of the game. So yeah, it's a common subject of conversation.
Yeah, I can attest that it is difficult to understand everything, but it is a joy to explore, especially when you have awesome people from Cryptic explaining to you all the things you don't understand quite yet. So that's been a pleasure. While I'm here, because we've mentioned feedback, I've already posted the Discord link, but if you want to give us feedback or bug reports, or if you're a new player who doesn't quite understand yet how things work, you should join our Discord, because not only can you post all the feedback you want, there's a lot of really great players that have been playing this game for many years, and they're really happy to help you with any questions you have, or any builds you need for your ship, or any fun fan art content. There's all kinds of things there. I'm there. A few of our developers are there. Jeremy's there. Please don't tag him. So it's quite a fun place. And I think, Jeremy, there's a question about one of our recent ship releases that you wanted to answer. The Hellbore light trait.
Yeah, this should be a quick answer. So there's a I think this is the Warden or the Okinawa. Sorry, I forget which ship, but there's a trait that came on one of those ships called the Hellbore light. The day that it came out, it came to my attention that this starship trait was overperforming in high difficulty content, because the shield drain that it does is a percentage based. So when you're dealing with an enemy that has millions of shield points, draining 5% at a time is huge and definitely overperforming. So I publicly stated that yes, we would be looking at that. We would be tuning that. So I think that's where this question comes from: is how are we going to be tuning it? And actually, this might have gone live today. I'm not really sure when the fix goes in. Anyway, just a real quick answer to question after all that preamble. We just put a cap on the amount of shield drain, so it's going to be 5% or a certain value to ensure that it's still performing as good as it should in normal difficulty, but in advanced and elite, it'll probably hit that cap more reliably. So it'll perform. It won't scale as aggressively at higher difficulties. That's our goal anyway. So yeah. Oh, okay. Somebody just posted it's 5% or 10,000 per hit, whichever is less. So if you have an enemy with a huge shield pool, then each time it drains, it'll only do 10,000 instead of the potential fractions of a million that it used to do. That's it. That's the long and short.
All right. I do like showing off that we listen to feedback and that we react with fixes fast. So
Well,
great
and also I wanted
timing
to make
for the
sure
patch
that
today.
I wanted to make sure with this change that we weren't unnecessarily nerfing something that was really only a factor in high difficulty play, where it began overperforming. So I'm pretty happy with the decision to tune that in this way, because it means that you probably won't even notice any change in performance in normal difficulty content, which was what I think what I was after with this change.
All right. Then I have one last question for Jeremy, actually. So a player asked, Looney Welch. I don't feel comfortable saying that name. Cryptic had taken out a number of great episodes for reworking. Does Deca have plans regarding that?
Well, we don't have plans that we can talk about, but I will say that conversations have been happening. I don't know how much we want to say about that, Rich. Is there more information that you might want to bring to light, or is that enough for now?
I think that's probably enough for now. The fact that
Like we can,
conversations are happening.
so among like Rich and myself and Thomas and Flo, we've had conversations about what was cut and what would be the kind of the scope that we might be looking at if we wanted to revisit that. But that's kind of as far as those conversations have gotten at the moment. But they are happening. We're acknowledging it, at least internally, so we could potentially look forward to something. But it's way too early in the process to make any promises of any kind.
Right. There is actually another question. In fact, I've seen it raised a couple of times or similar. One from Stu 1701. Apologies to the other watcher whose tag escapes me now, but basically the gist of the question is any talked about revamping old story content like the old Kuvamar arc. Would be nice to get that old Leonard Nimoy voiceover back in the game. So
Yeah.
In terms of old content and sort of revamping old content, there's obviously with a game like Stowe, there's just a huge amount of old content. I hesitated to use the word legacy content because that kind of sounds like it's outdated, and that isn't the case. But there are opportunities for us to potentially, dust it off a little bit, update it, revamp it. Although there are no plans currently specifically around this is what we're going to work on next and we're going to revamp this, I'm certainly not against the idea. So yeah,
A
that
lot
is
of
a
it,
possibility.
a lot of the next steps in that conversation are also having to look at the capacity of the content team and environment team and cutscene team and narrative to see if we want to revisit that old content. What's the scope of the changes that we need to do? Do we have time in our schedule to do that? Would it require sacrificing new content that we might rather focus on because it tends to perform well? So we really need to focus on that. These are all facets of the conversation that can be really difficult to come to an agreement on and really resolve, especially resolve quickly. So it's really going to be an ongoing process. But as I did mention earlier, like the content team in particular, I think is increasing our throughput and coming up to speed and learning more about the engine and how to do things well and good precedents and all that kind of stuff. So there may come a time where we can spare the time in the pipeline to revisit this older stuff. But as far as our current plans, we really do need to continue focusing on making new content, as it's really important to the long-term health of the game to keep putting out new things for our entrenched veterans to enjoy playing.
Absolutely.
Right. One last question for Cam, and then I'll answer one, and I think we will close it for today. Are mod bundle sales actually going to start happening again?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for the answer.
Yes.
Short and sweet.
That's all we need to know. No, we have heard your feedback on this, and I've mentioned it quite a few times. Obviously, we had the summer sale right now, so that took priority. But we are aware that you guys want these to come back, and they will come back. We just don't have a very precise date yet, but
Mhm.
we will announce it as soon as we have one.
Well,
All
We
right.
have a date internally. We're just not going to mention it here.
Yes. Well, I was trying to be nice about it, but Cam is always the businessman. So yeah, they are coming. They're planned. So you should start saving up for that. All right. To end this up, I have a question about what I like to do when I play Star Trek Online. It's very easy. I like to hoard everything. That's it. I spend all the Zen I have on inventory slots, because maybe I don't need that weapon that I got like in the first day of playing because I have so much better things now, but I do like having it. Just in case I ever might need it. And I open way too many lockboxes, and I also hoard all of that. So I think that is most of the things that I do when I don't play the new episodes
You are
or have
speaking
fun
my
with that.
language. That's
I'm not very good at all the competitive, and I'm also not good at the elite missions. I just like flying around and shooting things and doing the story over and over again, and then hoarding everything I can find and own, and doing ground missions with melee weapons, even though they're not effective, but it just looks so much cooler.
Oh, you can make a great melee build. Get in touch with Alex on the systems team. He can walk you through it.
I should, honestly. I'm not very efficient. I just like the way it looks when I hit things with some cool Klingon weapon or whatever. It's just so much more fun. So I think that ends it for tonight, though, because I think we've said everything we've wanted. I know we didn't answer all your questions, but we need to keep some secrets, so you still read our blogs and follow our social media. So I'll end it here for tonight. We'll see you again relatively soon for a ship stream, so you'll probably see Jeremy again. I will eventually drag Rich and Cam on again for something, so you might see them again. But next time there will probably be a panda hat on here again, because I also finally want pandas on stream with me. So I'll see you soon. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful night.
Thanks
Thanks
everybody.
everyone.
Take care.